Power in the Middle East is not measured solely by military hardware or oil reserves. It is measured by will, strategy, and the ability to project influence across borders and into the minds of populations. By these measures, Iran stands as one of the region's most formidable powers. With a population of nearly 100 million, the largest ballistic missile arsenal in the Middle East, and a network of armed groups spanning from Lebanon to Yemen, Iran maintains influence disproportionate to its defense budget. But Iran's power rests on something deeper than weapons and money. It rests on an idea that has animated Middle Eastern politics for nearly 50 years. That Islamic Revolution can unite Arabs and Persians, Shiites, and even some Sunnis in common cause against Western domination and Israeli expansion. This is the story of how a nation isolated by sanctions, surrounded by American military bases, and facing a far wealthier rival in Saudi Arabia, became a power that shapes conflicts across an entire region. In 1953, the democratically elected Prime Minister of Iran, Mohammad Mossadegh, commits an act of defiance that shakes the Western powers. He nationalizes Iran's oil industry, declaring that Iranian oil belongs to Iranians. The response is swift and devastating. The American CIA and British intelligence orchestrate a coup, overthrowing Mossadegh and reinstalling Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, an authoritarian monarch aligned with Western interests. For 25 years, the Shah rules with an iron fist, using oil wealth to arm Iran with modern weapons and American military technology. Yet he also brutally suppresses religious and political opposition. Secret police torture political prisoners. Corruption festers in the royal court. The wealth from oil enriches the elite while ordinary Iranians struggle. By 1978, the Shah's modernization has created a fragmented society. Clerics resent the erosion of Islamic traditions. Intellectuals despise the lack of freedom. Workers suffer from inflation. Students mobilize against dictatorship. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, exiled in France, becomes the voice of opposition. When he returns to Iran in February 1979, 2 million people greet him. The Shah, abandoned by the West, flees the country. On April 1, 1979, Ayatollah Khomeini proclaims the Islamic Republic of Iran. The revolution is total. The new government immediately breaks relations with Israel, expels American diplomats, and seizes all American military hardware. Iran is no longer an American client state. It is now an ideological rival committed to exporting revolution across the Middle East. Iran's early years as a revolutionary state are marked by extreme isolation and existential threat. Within months of the revolution, Iraq invades. Saddam Hussein, armed by the West, seeks to seize Iran's oil-rich province of Khuzestan. The Iran-Iraq War begins. For 8 brutal years, the two nations pummel each other with missiles, poison gas, and infantry assaults. Over 1 million soldiers and civilians die. Iran survives the war through sheer will and manpower. Islamic Revolutionary Guards, many teenagers, hurl themselves at Iraqi trenches in human wave attacks. The Ayatollah calls them to martyrdom as a religious duty. Iranian civilians manufacture weapons in basements. The nation endures economic devastation, chemical weapons, and international isolation. Yet Iran does not surrender. During this war, Iran makes a crucial strategic decision. Rather than defend only its borders, it begins supporting militant groups across the region that share its ideological vision. In 1982, as Israel invades Lebanon, Iran sends military advisors and billions in funding to create Hezbollah, a Shia militia and political party dedicated to fighting Israel and establishing an Islamic State. This single act plants a seed that would grow into Iran's most powerful tool for regional influence. The Iran-Iraq War ends in 1988 as a stalemate. Iran's oil infrastructure lies in ruins. Its military is exhausted. Its economy is shattered. Yet Iran has proven something crucial. It cannot be defeated by military means alone. This realization shapes Iran's strategy for the next 3 decades. Iran emerges from the war with a doctrine: if we cannot defeat our enemies with tanks and air force, we will exhaust them with militias, drones, and missiles. We will fight on multiple fronts simultaneously, using groups that share our ideology but maintain their own interests and networks. We will make war costly for adversaries while keeping Iranian territory safe. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the military force most loyal to the revolution, establishes the Quds Force, a special operations unit tasked with extraterritorial missions. Led for 2 decades by the legendary commander Qasem Soleimani, the Quds Force becomes the architect of Iran's regional network. It recruits, trains, funds, and supplies armed groups across the Middle East. In Lebanon, Hezbollah evolves from a militia into a state within a state. It runs hospitals, schools, and welfare services. It wins seats in parliament. Its military wing maintains thousands of trained fighters and tens of thousands of rockets aimed at Israel. Yet it remains dependent on Iranian money and weapons. Iran provides roughly $700 million annually to Hezbollah, making it impossible for the group to act without Tehran's permission. In Iraq, after the American invasion topples Saddam Hussein in 2003, Iran sees an extraordinary opportunity. The power vacuum is filled by Shia militias that look to Tehran for support. Groups like the Popular Mobilization Forces emerge. Iran funds them, trains them, and equips them with drones and missiles. These militias become so powerful that the Iraqi government struggles to control them. American troops face constant attacks from Iranian-backed groups. In Yemen, Iran discovers the Houthis, a tribal militia fighting a civil war since the 1980s. In 2014, as Saudi Arabia intervenes to support the government, Iran begins arming the Houthis. The transformation is dramatic. By 2015, the Houthis are launching ballistic missiles at Riyadh, Saudi Arabia's capital. By 2025, they are striking targets over 2,000 kilometers away and attacking international shipping in the Red Sea. Iranian weapons have turned a ragtag militia into a force that threatens global commerce. And in Palestine, Iran provides funding and military support to Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, groups dedicated to resistance against Israel. When Hamas launches surprise attacks against Israel, Iran is involved in planning and supplying weapons. When these groups fire rockets at Israeli cities, they are firing Iranian-supplied missiles. Beneath Iran's network of proxies lies a military that, while smaller than Saudi Arabia's and less technologically advanced than Israel's, possesses remarkable strength. Iran maintains 600,000 active-duty military personnel, making it the 3rd largest military in the Middle East. Its army, navy, air force, and the elite Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps together form a fighting force of proven combat experience. The backbone of Iran's military power is its missile force. Iran possesses the largest and most diverse ballistic missile arsenal in the Middle East. The Shahab-3 missiles can strike targets over 2,000 kilometers away. The Sejil missile is even more advanced. The Khaybar-Shekhan missile, unveiled in 2023, boasts sophisticated evasion capabilities. These are not ancient weapons. Many were developed and refined by Iranian engineers under international sanctions. Iran has also developed one of the world's most sophisticated drone programs outside the major superpowers. The Shahed 136 loitering munition, a kamikaze drone, has been exported to Russia and used in Ukraine. The Mohajer 6 surveillance drone can fly for hours gathering intelligence. These drones are inexpensive to manufacture but deadly in practice. A single Shahed 136 costs roughly $10,000. A single air defense missile costs $1 million. This asymmetry gives Iran tremendous leverage. What makes Iran's military power particularly formidable is its refusal to be intimidated by superior technology. When American and Israeli forces strike Iranian positions, Iran responds not by surrendering, but by escalating. In April 2024, after Israel strikes Iranian military targets in Syria, Iran launches 350 drones and missiles directly at Israel. The message is clear: there is no safe distance from Iranian retaliation. This willingness to absorb punishment and strike back creates a form of deterrence. Even if Iran would lose a direct war against the United States or Israel, the costs would be so high that adversaries hesitate. This is Iran's greatest strategic asset, the ability to make conflict painful. Iran sits at a critical geographic choke point. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow passage between Iran and Oman, sees roughly 20% of global oil flow through it daily. Over $1 trillion of petroleum transits this strait annually. Iran controls one shore. This gives Iran leverage over global energy security. When tensions rise, Iran threatens to close the strait. When sanctions bite, Iran hints it might block Western access to Gulf oil. Iran also shares borders with Iraq, Turkey, Afghanistan, and the Persian Gulf states. This gives it potential points of influence across a vast region. It is a Persian power in an Arab-dominated region, allowing it to play the role of a balancing force. Its ancient civilization and rich history give it cultural prestige. When Iran speaks, especially on matters of Islam and resistance to colonialism, millions across the region listen. Geography alone does not make a nation powerful, but combined with will, ideology, and military capability, geography becomes a multiplier. Iran is a regional power, not despite its isolation, but in part because of it. Isolation forces self-reliance. It forced Iran to develop indigenous missile and drone industries. It forced Iran to think creatively about how to project power without relying on American military aid. Yet by 2024 and 2025, Iran's regional network faces unprecedented challenges. The fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime in Syria in December 2024 shatters Iran's key supply line. For 4 decades, Iran had supplied weapons to Hezbollah through Syria. Assad provided the corridor. With Assad gone and Syria controlled by opposition forces, Iran loses its main avenue for resupplying Hezbollah with heavy weapons. Worse, Israel and the United States launch devastating strikes against Iran's proxy groups. Hamas loses most of its senior leadership. Ismail Haniyeh, the political chief, is assassinated by a bomb in Tehran. The military commander Mohammed Deif is killed. The Gaza operations collapse into chaos. Hezbollah in Lebanon suffers the heaviest casualties in its history, with thousands of fighters killed and its military infrastructure destroyed. The Lebanese government, for the first time in decades, moves to disarm Hezbollah and enforce the state's monopoly on weapons. In June 2025, Iran and Israel go to war directly for the first time in decades. American missiles strike Iranian nuclear facilities. Iran retaliates with missiles and drones. For 12 days, the region teeters on the edge of a wider conflagration. When a ceasefire finally holds, Iran has suffered significant military losses. Over 1,000 Iranian military targets are destroyed. Qasem Soleimani's successor is killed. The IRGC Aerospace Force loses senior commanders and operational capacity. Perhaps most humiliating, when Iran calls on its proxy forces to respond, many refuse or are too badly damaged to act meaningfully. The Houthis fire some missiles at Israel, but Israeli air defenses shoot most down. The Iraqi militias avoid direct confrontation, fearful of American retaliation. Hezbollah is too weakened to contribute. Iran finds itself isolated, cut off from its network, facing American and Israeli military power almost alone. The setbacks of 2024 and 2025 reveal a crucial truth about Iran's power. It is real, but fragile. It depends on proxies that have their own interests and constraints. It depends on allies like Syria and Russia that cannot always deliver. It is constrained by economic sanctions that limit military modernization and force hard choices in military spending. Yet even after devastating setbacks, Iran remains one of the Middle East's most powerful nations. Why? Because power flows not just from military hardware, but from strategic vision, the willingness to absorb costs, and ideological appeal. Iran has fought 3 enemies simultaneously: Israel, the United States, and Saudi Arabia, while under sanctions, and it has survived. That itself is a form of power. Iran commands genuine support among significant populations across the region. Millions of Arabs and Muslims view Iran as the only major power standing against Western imperialism and Israeli occupation. This ideological resonance is difficult for adversaries to counter with military force. You cannot defeat an idea with missiles. Iran understands this and has invested decades in building this reservoir of support. Iran also possesses something adversaries cannot easily replicate: unified command under the supreme leader. While proxies operate with some autonomy, Iran's nuclear program, military, and intelligence services all answer to the same authority. This allows for coordinated long-term strategy. Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states, wealthy as they are, often lack this unified vision. Israel is powerful but faces constant pressure to justify military spending to a democratic electorate. America is distant and tired from regional wars. Iran plays a long game with patient persistence. Furthermore, Iran's isolation has forced innovation. Without access to American or European military technology, Iran developed indigenous industries. Its missile factories produce weapons that satisfy regional needs. Its drone industry is expanding. Its cyber capabilities grow more sophisticated. Iran has turned sanctions into an advantage, creating capabilities that reduce dependence on external suppliers. Most importantly, Iran possesses nuclear knowledge. While the international community debates whether Iran has weapons or merely the capability to build them, the knowledge remains. This ambiguity itself is a form of power. It forces the United States, Israel, and regional powers to calculate costs. A nation that might have nuclear weapons is treated differently from one that clearly does not. Iran leverages this uncertainty. Looking forward, Iran faces a critical balancing act. It must rebuild military capability after recent losses while managing economic hardship caused by sanctions and low oil prices. It must sustain its proxy network, while those networks face their own challenges. It must maintain the revolutionary ideology that justifies its rule, while pragmatically engaging with regional and global powers. In late 2025 and early 2026, there is tentative movement toward negotiations with the United States and regional powers. Iran's new leadership understands that continued isolation and confrontation are unsustainable. Yet negotiations threaten the revolutionary narrative that has sustained the regime for nearly 50 years. How can Iran justify diplomacy to a population taught that America and Israel are irredeemable enemies? How can it claim victory while reducing military spending and accepting international constraints? Iran will likely continue attempting to manage this tension. It will engage in negotiations while maintaining military deterrence. It will seek regional agreements that acknowledge its role as a major power. It will slowly rebuild proxy capabilities while accepting some limitations. The era of pure confrontation may be ending, but the era of Iranian influence in the Middle East is far from finished. Iran is powerful not because it is the wealthiest or the most technologically advanced. It is powerful because it has proven it can survive, adapt, and strike. It is powerful because millions believe in its message. It is powerful because no regional actor, not even Saudi Arabia or Israel, can ignore it. This is the essence of Iran's regional dominance. Iran's journey from a Western-aligned monarchy to a revolutionary power that defies American sanctions and Israeli military strikes spans nearly 50 years. This journey has not been smooth. The nation has endured invasion, economic devastation, and constant pressure. Yet it has emerged as one of the Middle East's most consequential powers. Iran's power rests on multiple pillars: a military establishment of 600,000 active personnel trained in unconventional warfare, a network of militias spanning from Lebanon to Yemen, projecting force across the region, an ideology of resistance that appeals to millions, strategic geography that controls critical choke points, willingness to accept costs that other regional actors find unacceptable. Most importantly, a government committed to long-term strategy unswayed by democratic pressures or quarterly earnings reports. This power has limits. Recent military setbacks have revealed vulnerabilities. The proxy network is strained. Sanctions continue crippling the economy, yet Iran persists. It rebuilds, it adapts, it returns to the negotiating table while simultaneously upgrading its missile arsenal. This is the paradox of Iranian power. It is both weaker and stronger than many observers realize. Weaker because military hardware cannot match the West's technology. Stronger because Iran refuses to be intimidated or defeated. For the foreseeable future, Iran will remain one of the Middle East's most powerful countries, not the richest, not the most technologically advanced, but among the most influential, most willing to project power, and most consequential in shaping regional conflicts and alliances. Understanding Iran is essential to understanding the Middle East in the 21st century.